Welcome to At Issue. We're glad you have joined us for a discussion about the budget of the City of Peoria. I'm H. Wayne Wilson, and in the last month or so I've been sitting in on some of the policy sessions that the City Council has been holding to determine where to make cuts and how to raise revenue, because that's what's necessary as the 2018 budget and then again the 2019 budget approaches the City of Peoria. To bring you up to date, I have joining me Patrick Urich. He is the City Manager of the City of Peoria. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And also the Mayor of the City of Peoria, Jim Ardis, is here. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, H.
And before we begin, you have your pink tie on to mark breast cancer awareness.
Right, we're participating in the American Cancer Society effort to raise awareness on cancer this month.
And let's get started with a look at the budget. Patrick, you are to present proposals to the council, and then of course the council approves or makes changes as we see fit. But I want to make it clear that this is just a proposal at this time, so this is not the final budget. The council has to approve it sometime in November.
That is correct. That is correct.
Now, your proposal, if the city does nothing, would mean nearly an $8 million deficit for 2018. No changes in revenue, no changes in expenditures. But in putting this all together, there's a shortfall for this current budget year, different from what had been proposed a year ago.
That is correct. We're looking at about a $5 million shortfall in this current budget year. So I've directed staff to restrict all of their spending through the remainder of the year. Any approval of any purchase over $5,000 has to come to my desk. We have significantly curtailed our capital spend for the year. We've put the brakes on a number of projects and are really only spending capital in essential areas. The council 2 years ago talked about road funding, so we're continuing to move forward with some road funding and making sure that we're making the improvements to our roads, but that's really about it.
And will it be balanced at the end of the year or close to there?
I think it's probably going to end up in the red a little bit. I would think that we'll be about $3 to $3.5 million in the red is where we're going to probably end the year.
And where do you come up with $3.5 million?
It's going to be part of the discussion going forward is how do we replenish our fund balances and our reserves.
Because you're going to dig into reserves to balance that.
We'll have to dig into reserves.
And that's part of the council discussion is that the reserves have been diminished, and
That's correct, and I think some of that's a factor of the economy. Some of that's probably a factor of the projections maybe being a little too high than where we thought we were going to be, and our expenses coming in a little higher than where we thought that they were going to be. And now you add to that the kind of shakeout that's going on in the retail sector, where more people are shopping online and less at brick and mortar stores. And then we had the whole situation with the state.
We'll talk about the specifics of that in just a moment, but I want to turn to the mayor. Mayor Ardis, just a general feel from you, without getting into the weeds just yet. The difficulties of, it seems like every year we are facing declining revenues that we had depended upon many years ago, and yet the expenses keep going up. Is there an end to this? The answer is no.
Well, there's not an end that I see anywhere near term, and without getting into the weeds, the biggest thing that's driving the concern at our level is the steep climb on the benefits in our pensions and the impact that those have on us when our revenues are relatively flat.
Patrick, he mentioned pensions. Let's start there. Sure. What kind of increase are we seeing in pensions, and why are we seeing those increases?
So in our general governmental employee pension levels, it's been growing at about a 2% rate per year, really inflationary growth. What we've been seeing with our police and fire pension growth, our public safety pension growth, has been closer to 8%, so almost 4 times the rate of inflation. And that's a big challenge for us. And really it's doing two things. One, it's making up for past deficits. There's unfunded liabilities that we have in the plans from going back to 2009 when both funds lost nearly 25% of their assets. And then it's the benefit load going forward and what those future benefits are, and the compounding effect of 3% growth in pensions every year when somebody retires. They can work 20 years and retire at 75% of their salary, and then it grows at 3% a year thereafter. So I think that becomes a big challenge.
Have you talked to legislators, Mayor, about trying to at least modify the pension program?
We've had discussions with the legislature for 10, 15 years, literally, on the need for pension reform. And while I guess there's at least an off-the-camera acknowledgement that something needs to be done because it's not sustainable, nobody can find an actuary that will tell you that, at the acceleration that these pensions are at versus the revenues that are coming in to meet those obligations, no actuary will tell you that it's sustainable over the long term. So it's necessary to have that conversation about how we're gonna change this and how to reform it. But getting them to actually sit down and accomplish that's been very difficult.
One of the problems is that the Supreme Court has ruled that current pensioners and those who are already in the system, you can't change it. Is that correct?
Absolutely, that is correct. And that's a good point for clarification, H, is none of the municipalities are talking about any takeaways, because we can't. As the Supreme Court has said it, there's an obligation for us to pay those pensions, but it's going forward that has to change. And we talked before the show, if the legislature magically got together and actually instituted some type of meaningful reform going forward, we're not going to see the impacts of that for 20 years, because all those that are hired under the existing pension laws will be paid that until they retire.
Pensions are going up, revenue is declining. Two major sources, let's divide it into the state. How much have you lost from state? And I will say that at the beginning, before you answer, that the numbers will compare the proposal from a year ago for the 2017 budget year to 2018.
Correct. Due to the state ending their budget stalemate, we're seeing a reduction of revenues from the state of about $2.7 million. They took in the personal property replacement tax, which is the corporate income tax, they took $300 million out of that pot of money that was distributed to local governments and put it towards community colleges. So that was a $1.2 million hit to the city of Peoria. They reduced the income tax distributions back to local governments, cities and counties. For us, it's about a $988,000 reduction in income tax revenues next year. And then as part of the budget resolution at the state level, they're holding back 2% of our home rule sales tax, which is a local option sales tax. And that's about a $500,000 reduction. So all told, that's $2.7 million there. At the local level, we have about $6.8 million of reduced revenues that are coming back to us. We're seeing that sales taxes are down, and that reduction in sales tax revenue is really a reflection of people shopping online. More and more people are going online to buy goods, and that's having a big impact on us. If you shop online and you buy $100 worth of goods, we get 1 penny that comes back to the city of Peoria. Whereas if you shop locally, you will get $2.75 back in taxes. So it's a big difference. We're seeing utility taxes are down, gambling taxes are down, and a number of other revenue streams.
So a total between the state and local, you're starting to push $10 million.
Almost $10 million.
Again, the legislature, what have you heard with regard to a resolution to the sales tax dilemma with internet sales?
I think that there's a growing awareness amongst our elected officials in Springfield of what a significant impact this is having on local municipalities and these lost sales tax dollars. And they're being lobbied by the big groups that are not paying those taxes back to the municipalities to keep it like it is. But there's a huge discrepancy. That discussion's been going on a long time of the real equity between the bricks and mortar folks that have that investment in our communities and actually own bricks and mortar and pay their taxes, and then the people that operate on the internet that don't. And I see it probably coming to some type of a discussion whether or not the legislature, both state and federal, need to have that discussion on how it's going to take place and how we can receive the compensation for the services we provide that we're losing currently.
Patrick, I want to look at the big overview of the budget. Revenue, as you propose, if it's approved by council for 2018, would be just short of $200 million. I'm sorry, revenue would be $207.6 million. Expenses would be just short of 200, so a $7 million plus. If that were to come to fruition, why the excess of $7 million?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, we've been drawing down our reserves. So part of this is to really try and put some money back into the general fund, which is our largest operating account, to put some money back into the reserves. This budget would put $2 million over the next 2 years back into reserves, $1.5 million in 17 and then $500,000 in 18. There's also the recommendation from a revenue standpoint is to recommend the creation of a stormwater utility. As we get that established, we're trying to set aside some funds with the understanding that we're going to have to be doing some work there as well.
So let's talk about that. First of all, Mayor, if you could give us an overview so that those that don't understand the CSO, and this is a combined sewer overflow system, in high water events, the older area of the city has combined pipes underneath the ground where the rainwater, et cetera, and the waste from toilets, et cetera, all go into the Illinois River at how many locations?
There's about 13 that are currently
13 currently
having discharges.
And the EPA has said we need to eliminate that. Not just Peoria, many communities. The overview.
The overview is that we've been working with the United States EPA for over 30 years on addressing this situation. We both know it needs to be taken care of. Probably the biggest reason we haven't come to a final conclusion on this is a difference in opinion on how it should be addressed. At this point in time, we're very close, we think, to having an agreement with US EPA. Our proposal is very thoughtful. It's very almost revolutionary for the EPA in that it's a 100% green solution as opposed to the traditional way the US EPA looks at this is putting a great big pipe underground. And when you get those heavy rains, that big pipe holds the water and releases it slowly and to be treated before it's put back into the river. Our green solution, to try to keep it short, incorporates a lot of the things that you're starting to see around town with the permeable pavement, the bioswales, different things that actually absorb that heavy rain back into the ground so it doesn't even hit our sewer system in the first place.
And then would you cap off the pipes going into the river if this is accepted?
No, we would keep them open. And as part of this settlement, there would be certain times a year, and it's depending on the nature of the storm, if it's really severe, where we would still be allowed to discharge into the Illinois River. If we close those pipes off, you end up with sewer backups in people's basements, and that's something nobody wants to see.
So what is the cost of your green solution?
So the cost estimates that we have for doing this green range from $160 to $230 million for us to make these changes. And that's really just focused on the public rights-of-way, where we would be touching about 1/3 of the city streets in that 8 square mile area of the older part of the city. And by making those changes, we feel that we can comply with the Federal Clean Water Act.
Let's just take the average, about $200 million. Let's say it's
Sure.
that. That's 1 year of the city budget.
That absolutely is.
How on earth are you paying for the CSO proposal as you have it set forth?
Well, what we're looking at is a combination of things. We would first look at trying to finance the capital side of the construction with sewer rates, and looking at trying to spread that cost over the people of the city of Peoria that pay sewer rates currently. Second, though, is this establishment of a stormwater utility, where we would be looking at creating a sewer utility that manages stormwater runoff. That would be applied citywide on every property, whether you currently pay property taxes or not, because we're creating a utility. And the courts have held that municipalities can establish these types of utilities. We would then create a billing unit based on the amount of impervious surface that you have on your property. And every property would get a bill, and every property would be responsible for paying a portion of that cost. So that will allow us to then not only focus on the 8 square miles that is combined, but the 42 square miles of the city where we have a backlog of 400 projects currently that we haven't been able to get to address drainage issues.
So the cost to a homeowner, an average homeowner per month for the stormwater utility fee would be?
We'd be looking at $8 to $10 a month would be the average cost for a homeowner.
And this is a new fee?
This would be a new fee.
And this is beyond the fee that is, the city's fee that is incorporated into the Greater Peoria Sanitary District bill?
That is correct.
So you, as we tape this program, you have not been to the US EPA. When this program airs, you will have already been there. Will a final decision come out, or is this just more negotiation on this trip that you're taking?
Our perception is this is going to be not a final decision meeting, but a meeting that hopefully we all walk out of that meeting saying, okay, we're in agreement in principle on how we're going to set this final agreement up. All the players are going to be there, from US EPA to the Department of Justice to the Illinois EPA, the Illinois Attorney General's office, and our people. Everybody's going to be at the table as long as it takes to hopefully come to an agreement on where we need to land on this to get it done. And probably outside of the green solution, which I think that they're bought in on, is the amount of time that they're going to give us to pay to get this done and pay for it, which, originally we were shooting for 20 plus years. It's a lot of money for our community to do that. They've been on a lower end, somewhere between 15 and 18 years, so that's going to be a big part of the discussion too.
So that requires a bond issuance?
Yes.
And because a lot of this is capital, it's going to be capital intensive early on, so you'll issue bonds and then have to pay those back, and that'll be added to any future budget costs coming down the line.
Absolutely. And that would mean that we would have to have a revenue source to pay for those bonds as well. And that's where we would be looking to sewer rates and the stormwater utility fee to pay those costs.
And is that going to be sufficient to cover those costs?
Yes.
Okay, so we won't have other new fees to cover CSO?
No.
He says confidently. I don't mean to laugh, but that's, you.
I do.
You do. Let's real quickly, the proposed, you do have some cuts proposed for 2018.
We do. We looked at a reduction of nearly $4 million in personnel costs and other expenses in this budget to go along with the added increase in expenditures that we knew we would have on the capital side to establish the stormwater utility.
The number of layoffs would be?
We're looking at a total net reduction of 11 positions in the budget. There would be probably 5 layoffs, and most would be managing vacant positions that we have. We also have a voluntary separation initiative that the council has approved that will allow employees to leave the organization voluntarily for some revenue or some health insurance costs in the future. So far we've had 5 people that have signed up for that, but we'll see how that plays out.
So that would be part of, if I understand this correctly, 21 cuts and 10 additions for a net of 11 cuts.
That's correct. We reduced 21 positions in the general fund, and then there would be with the creation of the stormwater utility, 10 new positions added in that would be funded out of the utility fee.
And one of the areas where the cuts have been proposed, not approved yet, is to eliminate one fire engine. Why do that?
The discussion, well, a real big part of it is there's a current, they currently have 7 or 8 openings in the fire department, if I'm not mistaken. They're expecting a few more between now and the end of the year. We'd be able to accomplish this basically through not filling those positions in attrition, so it's not going to cost any existing firefighter their job. The second part of this, it's really more than just saying let's take a fire engine out of service, because the response times for those fires is very important to us, and the assurance that we can still cover the territory of the whole city and that target of 4 minutes for a fire is important to us. But the secondary question that we're really spending a lot more time on, that is over the years increased exponentially, are the number of these emergency calls for fender benders, I call, accidents in the streets, assists at homes and nursing homes for lift assistance and so on. And it's a number that is, it just keeps growing extremely large. So what we're trying to determine is, we want to have that strong response on fires. We're firefighters. That's the core function here. But what is the responsibility of our city to respond to every one of these car accidents and other incidents, and even lift assists with no compensation for it? So the number of fires in the community is not rising, and the number of fires that we see is predominantly in the older areas of our city, older homes and older wiring and so on. So the real dilemma here is having a discussion with the medical community also to say, whose job is it when someone falls out of bed, or if there's just an accident on the street, is that really appropriate that we're going out on 16,000 calls a year? 16,000 calls a year for these types of accidents, when a large majority of them don't require that emergency medical response.
But you'd still respond to important emergencies, medically speaking, and to the serious accidents.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And what percent of the calls are for fires?
Over the last 20 years, it's been about 3 to 4% of the calls are fire calls. So the greater preponderance of calls, the vast majority of calls that we go on, are emergency medical calls. So it really is a discussion about what role should our fire department be playing in an emergency medical system within the community.
And to be clear, this is not a suggestion to close a firehouse, it's to close one fire engine.
One engine, yes.
Okay. Let's spend the last 3 minutes on SSAs, Special Service Areas. There is a proposal to have Portillo's come in a 1% sales tax addition that Portillo's customers only would be paying. But there's also the question of setting standards, because this would be about the 4th SSA, and they're all a little bit different. Where are you on coming up with a standard for SSAs?
So we just had a policy session with the council where we got some great feedback from the city council on what they would like to see out of a policy. So our economic development staff and Assistant City Manager Chris Setti is going to be taking that back and working on coming forward with a policy that would outline kind of the uses of when we would apply this type of financing mechanism to go forward. It's a very powerful tool. It's used all across the country. We're seeing the kind of the additional taxes across the river as well as in Peoria, and so it's something that we have to come up with a set of standards.
And it could be sales tax or property tax oriented.
Correct.
And on the council floor, Councilmember Grayeb suggested that it was okay. It's not a case of corporate welfare. But then next to him is Sid Ruckriegel, who said, or 2 chairs over, who says, yes, that is corporate welfare. Your take on that?
I think that we're in desperate need of a policy on this because there is different thoughts on whether it's something that's acceptable or not. At the end of the day, I think the concern for me at least is when businesses are allowed to put an extra percentage of sales tax on a purchase, even if you put a note in the door acknowledging that, which was part of the conversation from the other night. I don't think that the average person that comes in shopping is going to recognize that. And what it really does, I think, at the end of the day, is it prohibits us from capturing that. If we have to raise the sales tax, they've already done it.
Okay, and with that, and that's fodder for more conversation on a later program, and maybe we'll have you back after the budget is approved and see where we're at,
Sure.
and after the US EPA has solved the problem. I know you've solved it, but they haven't agreed. And with that, thank you so much to Patrick Urich, who is the city manager for the city of Peoria. Thank you.
Thank you, H.
And to the mayor of the city of Peoria, Jim Ardis.
Thanks, H.
And we'll be back next week with a special edition of At Issue. It's a 2-hour special starting at 7 o'clock in the evening. It's a live town hall meeting where we're going to be discussing the issue of suicide, how to prevent it, how to recognize it on the next special edition of At Issue.